Hello again, and it's time for another project. Today we're going to use the scroll saw to cut out this Christmas decoration, and the idea is to remove all the white sections, just leaving those thin black barriers, and then we'll stick it to a backer of the same kind of shape. We'll show you how to go around that with a little washer effect later. And I've decided on this one, once we've removed the middle section, we're going to incorporate a photograph of there. It could be anything you want to, your favourite pet, your loved ones, anything like that. And what I did, just to save me a bit of time, I basically cut out the centre shape, as you can see from there, just roughly. Doesn't have to be fantastic. And I printed off a couple of photographs and played about with that middle piece. I've ended up with this one here, this fine couple. And the idea is we can use that, and basically that will be the end piece once we sit that Christmas decoration on top. So you have a rough idea, and you could play around with it. That didn't fit, you could obviously print off another photograph or turn it round at different angles until you find where you want to be. So just a little template, just give me a rough idea. So when this is all cut out and applied to the backer, this photograph printed off on standard printed paper will be incorporated in the middle, and we will basically laminate it. I use a clear book covering. I will show you that obviously later on in the video, but for now this 8 inches across template will be applied to 3.3mm plywood, and the backer piece itself will be 5.5mm. So that will be the back piece that will basically sit underneath there once it's all cut out. Now the way I apply my templates, normally I've used carbon paper. I'm quite happy to trace that out, but more for routing. But on my scroll saw patterns, I basically line the bottom section. We don't need that one for now, that can go to one side. I will line this bottom section with blue painter's tape all the way across, and then we spray on just a bit of glue. There might just be enough left in that one there, and then simply stick the template down. Once that's all been nicely stuck down, obviously we've got to get our blade inside all these sections. So we will go around and drill what they call a pilot hole. So every one of these will have a pilot hole in, and that's just enough to feed the blade through and allow us to cut it out. Now the blade I like to use is what they call a spiral blade. They're not for everybody. Spiral blades have the teeth that spiral the full length of the blade, and they will cut in any direction. So basically we could pop that in there now, once it's on the saw obviously, and just start feeding that round by so. And the same with these, you could cut all that out without basically moving that wood should you want to. The other two blades, and they would both work on this one, is your more basic blade. That's what they call a pin blade. Obviously it has a pin at both ends. They come on your more cheaper saws, we'll call them. Remember, with all your blades, be them spiral or standard or straight blades as we call them, the teeth want to be down, smooth and rough on the way up. You will find if you put your blade in the wrong way as it's cutting, it just basically brings all the dust to the top of your image and the paper with it. So you'll know when your blade's the wrong way round, so don't be concerned if it is wrong. You just take it off, turn it round, so when it cuts, all the waste will go under the project and not on top. Now you will get away with this pin blade just if you can, just smallest section is here, and you might just squeeze that in there. On smaller projects, all the professional boys, they use what they call pinless blades. This actually is a blade, believe it or not, and they come on your fancy saws that have clamps at the top and the bottom. My old saw, the old draper in the corner there that came off Noah's Ark, only takes pin blades. So if you are going to purchase a scroll saw, definitely take one, get one that takes pinless blades. So for me, with spirals which are pinless, I have to use these adapter clamps, one at top, one on bottom, and you simply pop your blade into there and use an Allen key to tighten up that clamp, and basically there it is on the blade itself, top and bottom. So that will just clip on now as if it was a pin blade. So remember, get a pinless saw if you can. If not, cheap old pin blade one, and this will you'll have to use one of these adapters. There's different sorts out there on the market, Axminster, all the rest of them, they all do a different design. Just have to do a bit of research and find which one suits you. So we'll stick all this down first, drill our templates in, pilot hole should I say, and basically start cutting this one out with our Pegas number 5 spiral blade. Right, so we put our painter's tape on, we sprayed on our glue, we secured the template, and we've drilled all our pilot holes, as you can see from there. A little bit of sanding down on the back just takes the little rough edges off. Normally I would cut all this off, but I'm going to leave it on. It's such a small little project. And what I didn't mention at the beginning, once we've cut all these white sections out and we've got our framework, as we call it, and it's stuck down to the backer with the photograph incorporated, we will be filling these all in with different coloured resins to suit. So we're going to finish it all off with some nice multicoloured resin. Right, let's pop our Pegas number 5 spiral blade on the saw. We'll pop it into one of these little pilot holes and then we'll start cutting this one out. Okay, so we've set up the spiral blade in the scroll saw. We've fed it through the pilot hole. We've took up the tension at the back. We have a nice ping ping sound. You can see from there we're ready to cut this out. I'll just start here just to show you, and then we'll speed things up a bit, and then we'll come back when hopefully this is all nicely cut out. Right, so we've made it all the way around with that Pegas number 5 spiral blade. You can see we've cut out the surround on the top section of our little project for today, and we've had no issues with that. Remember, we've got to peel the tape off, and the only downside with these spirals, you do get these little fluffy, fuzzy, noddly bits. So a bit of sandpaper, a small file, this will just go around like so, and that will come off in a matter of minutes. Put it on a firm surface and just basically clean it off. Remember, this is going to be our front. We will pull this tape off eventually. So now we're just going to do the backer section. Now if you wanted the backer the same size, you would have glued or taped the two pieces together and then cut it out so it matched fine. I want my backer just to be slightly larger than the actual top section itself. So the best way for me, just going to put it now where it's not going to interfere, it'll be fine, is to place it on your top section like so. And I use little washers. Now they come in obviously different sizes. Now the width of that distance from there to there will be the distance or the size of your backer board. Now I've done a couple of samples, that's just too big for that one, so I'm just going to go for a nice small one. It's a matter of maybe 3 or 4 millimeters. You can just get a little Dremel bit. Yes, I would say about 3 millimeters there. So I'm just going to use that to go around the full piece, and that will cut us out, or should I say, that will mark off the exactly same size backer shape wise be slightly 3mm bigger, if that makes sense. Now ideally you want a bit of tape on, just drop a bit of tape on just to hold it in place. It's only a temporary measure, just so nothing moves on you. And we can put one maybe across there, and we can throw one maybe at this side, just here like so. And I just tend to press on it as I'm going around. So we just basically put your washer, we're going to put our pencil in and feed that all the way around like so, and that will give us the backer board, like I just said, 3mm, slightly larger. As long as you keep it pressed down, you shouldn't have too many issues. So we can just start off like so, round there, round here. We want to do the full piece now here, around those sections. If you just keep it pressed down, you won't have any issues. And hopefully it should match up when we get to the end. Okay, that's enough of what we want. So there's our little backer all nicely marked off, and we can just simply remove the tape nice and gently. We don't get too carried away at this stage and start ripping things. So there we've got our little back template ready to cut out. So I'll cut this out quickly, and then we do a bit of sanding, peel the tape off, and then we look into the staining size and sorting out the photograph in the middle, and then we'll look into the resin side of things. But for now, we'll cut this out quickly. Right, there's all our general tidying up for me. Certainly near enough for what we want. Now the only downside with plywood, and I must admit mine's been 90% pretty good. On the odd ones you will get voids and stuff that's maybe not so clever. We had a couple of little chips out here, if you can just see that. So what I do is just get some wood filler or mix some sawdust up with some glue, and you can literally just put a bit on there and just fill that little gap in. Same there, and I believe we had one lost one at the top just there. So a bit of filler in there, that won't matter. If you're painting these, you're not going to see any of that. So there, generally tidied up. We've took all the little fuzzies off the back, and I've rounded it off just gently as we can, and the same with the backer section. And don't forget, we did have a little, what we call floaters. These are called floaters because they're not basically not attached to anything, so they just float about. And that's his eye, a closed eye I believe. So we kept that to one side, so when it all goes together basically it will fit like so. And we've got our little lip all the way around, about 3mm. Just remove that bit of tape, something like that. So here's our little backer done. You got the general shape, and when we come to put it all together, we will just glue in the eye just somewhere about there. So there's our basic template, all nicely finished. Next we're going to stain it. You could paint this whatever you prefer. I'm going to use some stain on my previous projects, dark teak for the backer because I'm really easy, and a light teak for the top section. Normally I would paint these, but there's quite a little bit to do here. You could spray that, obviously, no problem whatsoever. So there's no messing about with this stain stuff. You can just throw it on. It dries fairly quickly. Now with these back sections, when I first started doing these, because you're only going to see the millimetres all the way around, I would basically just paint. It's not the best of brushes. something like that, but you get the idea. Paint a lip all the way around, because when that goes back on, we're only going to see that end section. But when I come to put the resin in, if the resin wasn't thick enough colour wise, you could see the stain and the lighter pieces under the resin. So now I basically just cover the full piece, no messing about, not forgetting to get those side walls as well. Not quite organised today, so I will cover this one with this, not forgetting to do all those lovely side walls. I think I should have got a better brush, just like this one's had glue on. It's a bit solid, but it will do. You don't need to get too overly concerned. We'll just cover the full piece like that, and the side sections, and when we come to the top section, we'll simply use the light teak. Okay, I'll come back when this is all nicely done. Right, so there's all our stain nicely on. Remember the back section, we're not going to see a lot of that. It's literally just that little lip all the way around. So the next stage for me is literally going to spray this with some varnish, lacquer. It'll be a 151 today. For me personally, I think it just finishes the project off. One, it will just put a nice little bit of a shine, it won't be fantastic, to the plywood. Remember, we're not going to see any of the back section. And two, it will just help seal it and just help us with any of those little bubbles that are going to appear with the resin. Don't forget, we don't want to lose his little eye. I've already lost that on the floor and I've just spent 5 minutes searching for it. So just give it a quick spray over, and we will drop a little bit on the sides, and for some reason I've stained the back as well, so we finish the project off nicely. So I'll go outside in a minute, but for now, and this will also just darken down the stain itself. And I will do that 2 or 3 times, not forgetting to do the side walls as well. And when we come to do this top section, we will basically do exactly the same. Right, once this is all nicely dry, we'll go inside, find the original photograph, and then we'll cut it out just so it fits in that middle section there. Right, that's enough varnish, just enough to put a little shine on there. It's hard to see inside with the light I'm using at the moment. So anyway, that's plenty near enough what we need. So now I just want to work out how we're going to place the photograph in the middle of this couple here. So we can literally just pop it underneath and just have a play about, and we'll turn and twist until we find out where we think we want the photograph to be. We can literally just remove the bottom section for now. That's of no importance. So I just keep turning and twisting this till we get it somewhere near. Right, so I'm going to go for that. That's going to be our finished photograph in the middle, somewhere about there. That's just leaving the Christmas decoration side of things down there. Like so, just twist it around a bit more. Okay, that'll do. We have enough with that. Now I'm just going to mark it off, pencil or pen, give me a rough idea where I want to cut it out. Now on previous projects I have cut this out and just slotted it into the template itself, but on this one I'm going to try and incorporate it underneath this top section, if that makes sense. So we've made it slightly bigger that it does fit. Underneath the bit itself. What does it matter about that? Right, so that's roughly the shape that we're going for. I'll just cut this out with a pair of scissors. Once we've cut it out, I use book covering, transparent book covering. It's a bit like laminating, but there's no machine involved. And we're just going to coat the top piece. When you peel it off, it's nice and clear like that. And that literally will be covered over there. And then we're going to attach it to the backer. I've got my piece here ready to do it. So I will cover it all, cut it out, place it on top, And then we're just going to stick the clear stuff like so onto the back of there. And you imagine we've got our photograph underneath. Okay, and after we put our resin on top, it will cover if there's any overflow, should I say. Right, I'll cut it all out, and when we come back, hopefully it'll all be in place. Right, it was a bit fiddly, but we got the image there in the middle, as you can see more or less. And if I just get the right angle, you can see we've got that plastic clear book covering on top, and we've left a good 3 to 4 millimeter border all the way around. That's just going to hopefully stop the resin. If you put these printed images in and try to put a resin on top, it just soaks in and the image is basically transparent. It's not as good as it should be. So you certainly need to laminate it. I've already put front and back, but on this one, it's another testing one for me. I've literally just sealed it around the edges here, and hopefully that will stop any resin getting onto that paper side of things. We shall see. Now the next stage, we're going to stick this to the backer, the top section to the bottom section. Now super glue or any glue is not going to do this, because you would think you would like to put a couple of dabs of glue all the way around and stick that down wherever it's meant to be in the position we want it, like so. That will not seal it. That resin will find any little cracks or whatever, little entrances, and it will just leak from one section to the other. So for me personally, we're going to use clear resin. We'll get the resin out in a minute, mix them up, and basically brush it onto the back itself, cover the full piece. On previous projects, I've been known to brush resin on here completely, and we could do it on this one if wanted. And this, you just stick that down, put some weight on it, leave it overnight, and then we come back the next day and basically start filling these sections in. But today, because it's such a small project, I'm going to sacrifice a brush or even the back of a spoon and brush the resin onto here. And then we'll pop it in position, like we say, like so. And then we'll put a weight on it and we'll leave it overnight. Excuse me. Let's mix a bit of resin up and we'll stick this one down. Okay, it's resin time. Resin today for me is Vista 1. This is what they call a 1-to-1 mix. So you have A, your resin, B, your hardener. So whatever amount of A you use, we just mix exactly the same amount of B, the hardener. Some resins are 3-to-1, 2-to-1. This is 1-to-1. Some resins are deep pour resins, some resins are craft resins. Some resins you will mix by volume. Some resins you will need little scales to mix with. For me, this is a volume one, so 1-to-1. So I use these little party plastic cups. They're ideal. They've got little grooves up the side, and I basically have A, the resin, and I've gone up 3 little grooves. This will be more than enough to brush onto the back of this top section. And obviously we're going to have 3 little grooves, as we call it, so same amount of B. And once we mix them, we will just literally put B into A, mix like that. They do say put into a third container. It's something I never done. And for mixing wise, just plastic knife, forks and spoons. These are ideal. They have a great little groove cut out at the back. And when you're filling in, which we will do later, we will mix it, take our section and literally fill each one in. We'll talk about that near the time. But for now, we're just going to mix a small section of the Vista 1 resin, just so we can pick this up. We'll flick it over. I'm going to sacrifice a brush, get our resin, and literally just paint it on the back. And if you get it in the right light, you can see where the resin's been. But on previous projects, I've been known just to totally cover this and stick that down. So you have the both options. But today, we're going to brush the back of the top section itself. Not forgetting, remember, we've still got his little eye to pop in. We'll simply use a bit of resin to hold that in place as well. Okay, we'll mix a bit of resin up off camera, and when we come back, we'll brush this top section on the back, put a cover over it, put a bit of weight on, leave it 24 hours, and we'll come back tomorrow and then basically mix more resin, mix with acrylic paints, and start filling these sections in. But let's secure this one first. Right, there's our little bit of resin nicely mixed up. Please remember, with your resins, you want proper gloves on, proper resin mask and plenty of ventilation. Please don't follow by my example. Resin can be quite nasty should you get it on your skin, and so on and so on. Right, so now we're just literally just going to cover the back of this. Should we leave that there? Okay, let's just move it away a bit. So I've got a little brush here that I'm going to sacrifice. Once it's had resin on it, you might as well just throw it away. But if you don't want to waste it, I have been known to use the back of the spoon, and all you're going to do is just brush it on like so. And if you get it in the right light, look, you can see what bit you've done and where you've missed. And we don't have to be too tight with this. Remember, we want it to seal nicely, and it doesn't matter if it goes on the squeezes out. Just the end one we want to be a bit careful of. We just want to make sure we have a nice, good seal. So that's with the back of the spoon, look, and that's covering nicely. You've just got nice reflection. Or if not, just brush it on with a brush like so. Just make sure you get it all, because one little gap or space, that will be the gap that your resin moves into the next one. Okay, I'll finish all this and then we'll come back and hopefully pop it on there. Right, you can more or less see from that we've got a nice glaze all the way around. I tend to be a bit careful on the outer edges because we don't want too much to push out, but on these inner sections you can put on basically as much as you like, because it's all going to get covered up. And at the end of the day, you definitely want a nice, good seal. So that's all done now. That's more or less what we want. It's just a simple case of now placing it on the bottom section. So we'll just take our time. You have a couple of minutes. You can move it within to a certain extent, but obviously you basically want it somewhere in there first time round. So we simply just pop that on there like so. Quick look around. It's more or less central. Like I say, you can move it slightly. I'll just bring it over here so I can have a better look. There. Yes, I think I'm okay with that. So that's all there. Nice press down. I want that resin to be really squashed about. And hopefully that will seal it all. We're going to pop a little bit there for the eye. I've just noticed the eye is still loose. So we can put a bit of resin on there like so. That's all we need. And we can pop that eye on, or in should I say. You have plenty of time to move it about. And I'm going to go with that. Quick press down. Yep, that'll do for me. Right, so that's it. That's all in place. Hopefully it'll set should I say, by tomorrow. So just a nice flat board. Cover the full piece like so. And then get a nice weight and literally pop that on there. Right, that's it. We'll come back tomorrow and hopefully that's nicely sealed, and then we can continue putting in our coloured resin. Okay, it's about 24 hours later, so we can remove the weights and hopefully all that is all nicely stuck down and we shouldn't have any leakages all the way around. Right, the next stage now, literally just going to fill these in with coloured resin, and we'll put a bit of resin in the centrepiece there. Originally I was going to leave that alone as it was, but some nice clear resin just to hold it all down, keep it all together. Like I say, hopefully we've had no leakages. So exactly the same procedure as before, the A and B's with your resins. Now the A itself is actually in warm water at the moment. When you get your resins out of your storage area, B is always fine, but A, the resin, it was just one solid lump. So you just stand that in warm water for half an hour plus, and it just softens it all up back to a liquid form, and you're good to go. So while that's just thinning out, should we say, remember, same amount of A for your resin, B your hardener, mix the two together, and we're good to go. Now for filling in, I like to use the little back of these plastic knife, forks and spoons. You can mix your resin with your colour and just scoop it in like so. There's syringes, it is possible to use a syringe on these smaller ones if that's the way you want to work. All these little plastic pipettes, you can cut the end off a bit more, suck your resin up, and you can actually fill it in that way. I've tried both and just not for me. Personally, back of the old plastic spoon, knife, fork or whatever. And then we want a little cocktail stick. We can put the resin in, but we need to just help it along its way like so. And then once the resin's gone in, we'll come in with a lighter. There's a big boys here, skim over the top, or I prefer to use this one here when it decides to light up, and we just skim over the top like that. And that just helps all those little bubbles release from the resin. Right, I'll get the resin out of the warm water over there. We'll mix up a little batch. We can go slightly more than normal. I don't like to mix a full half container. By the time you've messed about and played about, you can start stiffening up on you, so you've got to be a bit careful. So we'll mix a bit up, and then we come back and we'll pop in our first colour. Okay, so A is nice and soft now, and we've poured a bit into our two containers, A and B, and I've mixed them both together. And you can just see from that, everything's nicely done. Now there's quite a bit in there, and that's far too much for one of these colours. I think white's going to be the most, so we're going to put a little bit in for red, and then we'll see what's left, and maybe do the centrepiece, or we'll just fill it in as we go along. But let's take a little bit out for the red first, should I say. So we can put it on there. Pure guesswork with these, how much we're going to need. I'm sure there is calculators out there that will tell you the amounts, but shape wise it's going to be just pure guesswork. There mightn't be too much in there, but I have little side projects going. If I just grab it quickly, I have a little mould like this, and anything's left over, I'll just fill these in. I've got a couple of jars full of these, and I will use them in another project further down the line. Right, what should we go for? Red. Okay, so just acrylics, nothing too fancy, and we just pop those in there to the mark. They do say 10% of whatever you're using, so I just tend to put it in till I think it's mixed up to how I like it. Don't forget, you want your gloves on again, plenty of ventilation, and we'll just give that a nice mix round. We'll start off slowly just to show you. Remember, cocktail stick just to help it along its way, and we will use the lighter at the end. So we have a nice red at. You can always drop a little bit in. If it doesn't look red enough, you can add a little bit more, can't you? Okay. I think that's near enough. So we're going to pop that straight in there. All these bigger ones, you can literally just pour it straight from the mould, like so. And we want to almost go to the top. When your resin cures, it will become concave effect, so just bear that in mind. But I want to be able to go around and still feel that it's been cut out. We don't want it too flush. And you can see from that it's spreading nicely, but a little cocktail stick certainly helps it along its way, like so. And the same up there. And you could leave that if you wanted to. Go on to your next colour, then come back, and hopefully it spread down a little bit more. Right. I think that's about right for our first colour, and you can more or less see from that we've still got plenty left over. I'll just keep to one side. We want a pink colour for the face itself, so we can use that and maybe put a little bit of white in and just see if we can pinken it up. So we've got our first one in. Remember, as each colour goes in, you want a little lighter. If I can just lift that up, you might just see those little, can we see them or not? there's just little bubbles in there. It's hard to see. But once you've skimmed over with your lighter, like so, and that's all it takes. All those bubbles will simply just disappear. Okay, so this is our first colour. We'll speed things up now and basically just start filling in the rest. Right, so we've got all our resin in, all the colours were needed. Basically this project could be finished now. And as each colour went in, we literally got our lighter and we skimmed over the top. And that just helps any of those little bubbles disappear. Now you could leave that like that, but I've got a little bit of resin left over, just clear stuff. So we are going to cover the top of this with clear resin as well. Right, so it's going to be a simple case of pouring that in. We'll go over with the lighter and then we'll get a nice cover to cover it all over. I use these little milk bottle tops, a couple at either side, and then we'll get our cover and cover it over. Because any flies, dust, they will find it. So just before we cover it up, we've done the lighter on all the colours, they're all good to go. So we're just going to put on just a nice clear over the top, like so. Hopefully we'll have enough in here just to seal that all. It'll find its own way. We'll just help it along. We've had no leakages, so that all worked out fine. And this is our last final stage. Remember, this is just an add-on. And originally we could have just left it as it was. So that will find its way. We've got a little bit left over, so I'm going to top it up just a little bit more. But you get the general idea from that. So I just want to show you, hopefully, I keep going on about these bubbles, but I just wonder if you could just can you see those in there? Maybe not. I'm just trying to show the idea when you skim over with the lighter. And those bubbles have just disappeared. Okay, I'll top this up, cover it over, and then we'll come back in 24 hours and we'll see how this project has finished. Okay, that's it. This little project is finished. Now it's about 24 hours later. Personally, I would leave this for a couple more days. In resin groups on certain manufacturers, they do reckon 30 days to fully cure. I do think that's a little bit over the top, but I'm not a resin manufacturer. Remember, health and safety at all times. So that's it. It's all nicely set. Everything's solid. Remember, we covered the clear resin, just cover the photograph up itself. For hanging purpose, nice little hook on the back there, and that hangs nice and straight. So it'll be like so. And that's it. Everything nicely done. We more or less filled these to the top, so we've got a slight concave as it cures, but it's done enough to go around and feel that it's all been cut out on a scroll saw. So that's it. This little project is finished. So we're going to call it a Christmas decoration photo frame. We cut it out on 5mm, 5.5mm for the backer, and 3.3mm hardwood plywood, using our Pegas number 5 spiral blade. That's just a personal choice. Any standard straight blade will cut out this project. And then we stained both pieces. We had the dark teak for the backer itself, and the light teak for the top section. Nothing too fantastic there. And then we sprayed it with a varnish, but one just to give it a bit of a shine. You don't see a lot of it, and also to seal it slightly. And then we came in with the Vista One resin, mixed in nicely with just Crawford and black acrylic paints. Remember, there is dyes out there, powders, inks. There's a lot of different types of colourants you can use, but I do find that acrylic paints, they're cheap enough and they work fantastic. And I honestly say I've had no issues with all my projects of nothing ever setting or curing or turning solid, shall we say. And it measures in at 8 inches, obviously, by 8 inches. And the printout itself was just done on inkjet standard paper, but you must seal it with something, be it laminate, Mod Podge, I think somebody else has used in the past, or a bit of plastic covering. Seal it. Do not put your resin straight on top of the paper, because it just soaks in and basically your image is more or less disappeared. So we're okay with that. That's near enough what we want. Just a little gift for somebody. Okay, thank you very much for watching.